I used to know what a sport tourer was, or at least I thought I did. You know, I thought sport tours were big displacement, two-up, tech-laden road recliners. But I guess not. Now I see some manufacturers are calling supercharged $30,000 liter bikes, they're calling those sport tours. And they don't even come with bags. Okay.
Sport tour is a word I first heard about maybe 30 years ago or so, but I never paid attention to that kind of bike. I preferred a more conventional type of motorcycle. You know, a sport bike. Then, 15 years ago, I actually rode a sport touring bike and subsequently had to reset my thinking. In 2007, I was searching for a new bike. Not just any new bike, but a new kind of bike. Back then, I thought I was looking for something slightly different because maybe it was maturity setting in. In my case, that may not have been true. To tell the truth, that was just another way of admitting I was getting older and I wanted to be comfortable during and, importantly, after the ride. Enter the Yamaha FZ1, the so-called gentleman's sport bike. I didn't know it then, but this FZ1 was the first bike in the next phase of my riding style. It wasn't perfect in every way, no bike is. But man, I fell in love right off the bat. At that time, I was married, we had 2 girls in school, and all trips were going to be family trips. So I confined most of my riding to daily or weekend rides. I grew up in East Tennessee, and having some of the best roads on the planet made getting back there on a bike someday more of an immediate goal. The FZ1 would be a perfect bike for the job once there, but then there's the crux of the universal motorcycle problem. How to get from here to there with a bike and all of your stuff. Maybe I should give this sport touring thing a closer look. In 2011, one of my riding buddies and I switched bikes and did a ride up the east coast of Florida and back. And that was my first ride on a C14, the Concours, or as some call it, the Connie. This was a 1352cc beast of a bike. The C14 would win no beauty awards, but it was undoubtedly a true sport touring bike. I was a little shocked at first at just how comfortable and nimble and capable this bike was. Highway speeds and well beyond were effortless, butter smooth gearbox, stump pulling torque. Yeah, I could get used to this. The most welcome aspect for me were the side cases. Far more capacity than one might think, and with a clever latch design that allowed you to just remove them and carry them like suitcases. Where had this bike been all my life? 3 weeks later, I rode home on my 2010 Candy Neptune Blue Concours. I took my first long-distance trip, an 8-day, 2,000-mile journey up into the Carolina mountains on the C14. It was that trip that snapped the word sport tour into focus for me. Every now and then, when I was on the Connie up in the mountains, I wondered, what if I could be here on the FZ1? You know, the Connie was a great bike, but at times, the size and sheer mass of that bike would come into play and remind me of why I still loved riding a lighter bike. After a few years, I began to analyze just what it was about the Connie that made a 600-mile day so easy, while 300 miles on the FZ1 seemed to be about my limit. After all, they had roughly the same ergonomics, but after just about 200 or 300 miles on the FZ, I wanted off. So what exactly is comfort? Well, I think we tend to think of comfort as things we can only feel, but isn't feel just one of our 5 senses? I think when we strain any of our senses for extended periods of time, that discomfort or stress will set in. Riding for hours when it's hard to see or when you're hungry or cold, well, that'll shorten your ability to ride. And I've even found that sound has an impact on my ability to ride long distance. I have noise-induced hearing loss, and exposure to loud noises causes me fatigue. Even turbulence and head buffeting behind certain windshields has the same effect. Now, for me, a smoother, quieter ride makes all the difference and is a top priority for long rides. And once I began to prioritize specific characteristics, I could see that maybe a sport touring bike in the classic sense was not always going to be the best bike for my style of riding. I began to think about adapting other types of bikes into that role. Years ago, I thought about making my own luggage and even designed a side case that had dimensions, shape, and lines favorable for the FZ1, but if all my time on the Connie had taught me anything, it was that you can really never have enough storage. What I wanted was a one-size-fits-all solution that can be used on just about any bike. It needed to carry as much, if not more, than standard side bags, but not look like giant square steamer trunks from the 19th century. Maybe the solution was no bags at all.
So, I know what you're thinking. This is crazy, but hear me out. Hear me out. I actually built this trailer in 2016. I put a lot of work into it and never used it. I mean, life and work and everything just got in the way, and I never used it. And I always wanted to. It has a lot of advantages, but it was not until I was in the midst of cancer treatment and was looking forward to my first ride that I thought, I'm going to set a goal and I'm going to do it. You know, I really built this so I could take a trip up to the Gap and up into the Carolina mountains. So, you know, I needed something that I could get there with the trailer and then unhook it and enjoy my ride. And with a bigger trailer, a 2-wheel trailer or something, you know, you're just going to park that out in the parking lot or wherever you're at. With this, I just roll it right into the hotel room and take off on my bike for a day trip. So that was really kind of the impetus behind designing this trailer this way.
When we first start riding, our motorcycling world is pretty small. I know mine was. As I grew older, my habits and desires related to motorcycles began to change, some without me even knowing it. Different phases of my life affected the types or style of bike I owned and the rides I took. Things like location, family, age, and life circumstances really had a lot of impact on my choices. The only bike that I own that is or was categorized as a sport tourer may be the best of all time, and indeed I I could make an argument that it is. Nevertheless, the title of Sport Tourer seems to be constantly changing, and maybe that's because there is no one-size-fits-all solution. I'm beginning to think just because a manufacturer designates a motorcycle for a particular category, that shouldn't limit or negate how or what we prefer to do with that bike. Maybe the label Sport Tourer needs to be retired or changed altogether. For me, sport touring comes down to whatever bike I choose to take on a trip, and I've seen that choice change as I've aged. I've always been one to agree with the saying, ride your own ride. But now, I realize that is the only truth when it comes to choosing what bike you ride and what you do with it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys. And we'll see you in the next one.